Howdy, I'm Dr. Steve Diazio, and I first would like to welcome you to the class, Mays Business School, and Texas A&M. I'd like to welcome you to what I'm calling Day Zero. I want you to think for a moment about the decision you've already made. You could have chosen a graduate program where the destination was relatively clear. Learn these things, pass these courses, get these credentials. Follow this pathway. Instead, you choose entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship is strange because it asks you to move before you know exactly where you're going. It asks you to operate in uncertainty, to imagine something that does not yet exist, to take risks without knowing whether they will pay off, and ultimately to act. I already know how talented you are. I've taught for more than 14 years and seen students just like you bend the future into their desires. That is what this semester is about. So I'm not asking you to predict your future. I'm asking you to begin participating in creating it. You're going to investigate something you care about, your choice, follow it into the world, and discover what is actually there, and then make something happen. Your project may be a company, product, community, maybe something none of us can name today, and that's okay. The important thing is that by the end of the semester, something should exist because you decided to move forward. This is what I mean by bending the future. And today is where it starts. I want to make an important distinction right at the beginning. You're not here to pretend to be entrepreneurs. You are here to begin becoming one. There's a huge difference. We have a textbook, we have frameworks, we have models, we have decades of entrepreneurship research, a range of resources within Texas A&M. We have a textbook by Professor Ireland who helped write the book that we're using, who's a faculty member here and has spent his career helping the world understand the process of entrepreneurship. All of that matters. These are deep resources. But you cannot learn entrepreneurship by only reading about it. Eventually, you have to enter the arena. You have to talk to someone. You have to ask a question you don't already know the answer to. You have to make something. You have to hear someone say, I wouldn't use that. You have to discover that something you were absolutely convinced was true wasn't. That's where learning gets interesting. So I want you to treat this semester differently from a normal class. You're not waiting for me to hold your hands or teach you the answer. There may not be just one. Instead, I'm going to give you a process, tools for you to move intelligently when you don't have the answer. Bend that uncertainty into your favor. And that may be one of the most valuable abilities you can develop right now, because the future is becoming harder to predict. There's one thing we can still do. We can build. So starting today, that's what we're going to practice. Now comes the question that usually makes people nervous. What am I going to work on? And I want to remove some pressure immediately. You do not need to walk into this class with the next billion-dollar startup. You do not need your life's purpose figured out. You do not need a brilliant idea. You will need a possibility worth exploring. Look at the ranges here. Startup, app, service, social venture, event, AI experience, family business. Maybe it's a problem you keep noticing on campus. Maybe it's something connected to music, fitness, fashion, food, sports, education, gaming, sustainability, healthcare, community, technology, or building your own personal brand. Maybe it's something weird. Weird is welcome. The filter I want you to use is not, is this impressive enough? The question is, do I care enough about this to spend a semester chasing it? Entrepreneurship begins with noticing. Something bothers you, fascinates you, seems inefficient, or could be better. Someone is struggling with something. You see a possibility other people walk past. That's enough to begin. Your job right now is not to find certainty. Your job is to find something worth becoming endlessly curious about. Now I'm going to save you from one of the most seductive traps in entrepreneurship, the pitch deck. PowerPoint is a wonderful place for bad ideas to hide. You can make almost anything look brilliant on a slide. Beautiful logo, giant market, perfect customer persona, hockey stick growth charts, and absolutely no evidence that anyone wants the thing. That is not what we're doing. I'm much less interested in how impressive your idea sounds today than I am in how much your thinking changes over the semester. How you've changed, how you've been empowered, how you have more confidence. If you arrive at the end with exactly the same idea you had on day 0, I'm probably going to ask, did you actually investigate anything? I want reality to leave marks on your ideas. Maybe you think students want one thing and they tell you something completely different. Maybe the customer you imagined isn't the real customer. Maybe your competitor turns out not to be your competitor. Maybe your original idea is terrible or fantastic because you discovered it before spending 3 years and a half of your savings to build it. So here's one sentence I want you to remember. Fall in love with the problem. Hold your first solution loosely. Your idea is not your identity. We can change the idea. That is one of the superpowers of entrepreneurship. Here's the journey we're going to take together. And I deliberately call it an expedition because expeditions don't go exactly according to plan. You begin with a call, something that catches your attention. Then comes departure, where you leave the safe territory of what you already know. Then you search, you research, talk to people, have meetings, you investigate the world. Eventually you begin to see something you couldn't see from the starting point. That is the revelation. And then comes the threshold. At some point you say, there is something here worth pursuing. Then things get messier. You prototype, you experience, you get things wrong. You build things nobody understands. You revise them. And eventually something exists. Then you return and show us what happened. But understand something important. The map is a lie, a useful lie, because entrepreneurship will not behave this neatly. You may research, build something, discover you misunderstood the problem, go back to research, change the customer, prototype again, and then realize your original opportunity was somewhere else entirely. Good. The point of the map is not to tell you exactly what will happen. The point is to remind you that movement creates information. And right now, you are standing at the beginning. This may be the most important slide in the entire presentation. Entrepreneurship begins with nouns. Become verbs. I have an idea. Great. What did you do? I'm interested in fitness. Great. Who did you talk to? I want to create an app. Great. What did you test? I have a concept for business. Great. Who did you show it to? This is a huge distance between having an entrepreneurial idea and behaving entrepreneurially. And that distance is crossed through action. So I want you to think in 7-day increments, not what company will I build someday. Ask, what can I do in the next 7 days? Can you send 5 emails, interview 3 people, visit a business, create a crude landing page, show a sketch to 10 potential users, call someone in the industry, try to sell something before you've built the whole thing. Those actions sound small. That's the exact point. Big entrepreneurial journeys are usually built from very ordinary first moves. And I also want you to help define your own ambitions. You're going to tell me what an A, B, C, D version of your project looks like. You propose the mountain. My job is to make sure it's actually a mountain. But nobody climbs a mountain by staring at it. You take the first step. Once you choose your possibility, I want you to become suspicious of it. Your idea is currently full of assumptions. Excellent. That gives us something to investigate. You might be assuming that people have a problem. You might be assuming they care enough about the problem to change their behavior. You might be assuming they'll pay. You might be assuming they'll download something. You might be assuming they want convenience more than quality. You might be assuming the customer is a student when it's actually a parent. There are dozens of assumptions hiding inside even the simplest of ideas. And beginners tend to ask, how do I build this? I want you to ask a different question first. What is actually going on here? That means observations, interviews, customer conversation, competitor research, data collection, online communities, existing alternatives, workarounds. You are not collecting evidence to prove yourself right. Please hear that. Your job is not to build a case for your genius. Your job is to become less wrong. Because every dangerous assumption you discover early is a gift. Your first milestone is going to feel different. I don't want you standing in front of the class saying, here are 5 bullet points. I want to see the expedition. Show me the customer. Show me where you went. Show me what they said. Show me what surprised you. The contradictions, the interviews where someone destroyed one of your assumptions. Your story should sound something like this. We thought, then we looked, then we found, and one of my favorite sentences, we were wrong about. That sentence is not embarrassing. That sentence is evidence that learning is happening. This is the strange pressure in school to always have the right answer. Entrepreneurship rewards something different. It rewards the ability to revise your answer as the evidence changes. So document your journey. Record the conversations when appropriate. Take photos, screenshots, keynotes, observations, ugly versions, because later those become the fingerprints of your thinking. Your research presentation should make us feel like we were there with you every step of the way. By mid-semester, I expect something important to happen. Your problem should become more precise. Look at the example on the slide. College students struggle with food. Technically true, also nearly useless. Compare that with graduate students coming home after kitchen closes are experiencing a specific recurring gap involving convenience, nutrition, availability, and price. Now we have something we can investigate. The second statement contains a human, a situation, a context, attention, and opportunity. That level of clarity doesn't usually emerge from sitting alone in a room thinking harder. It comes from evidence. By midterm, I want you to be able to say, this is what I thought the opportunity was, this is what I believe it is, and here's the evidence that moved me forward. Notice the language. Not certainty, a hypothesis. You are crossing a threshold. You are deciding that based on what you know today, this is worth testing. And then the semester changes, because now we stop investigating only through questions. We begin investigating through things. At some point, I'm going to become increasingly annoying, because you will explain something to me and I will say, make it. You'll tell me about the app, make something. You explain the service, prototype it. You'll describe the event, run a tiny version. You'll tell me about the website, put up a landing page. Ideas behave beautifully in our heads. They cooperate in PowerPoint. Reality is much less polite. That is precisely why we need it. And notice what I'm not saying. I'm not asking you to build the final product. I want you to build the cheapest thing that answers an expensive question. Maybe a cardboard is enough. Maybe Figma is enough. Maybe AI generates the prototype. Maybe your prototype is 3 humans manually pretending to be software. Maybe it is a QR code taped to a wall. Entrepreneurs are not rewarded for building the most complicated experiment. They're rewarded for learning something important efficiently. So later in the semester, when you find yourself explaining for 10 minutes what the idea would do, stop. Make something that lets us experience it. Now, I want to give you permission to do something that school does not always make easy. Fail. But let me define what I mean. I'm not celebrating carelessness. I'm not celebrating laziness. I'm not celebrating other poor behaviors. I'm celebrating intelligent experiments whose outcomes are generally uncertain. Look at version 1. May be terrible. Good. Version 1 had one job. Teach you enough to create version 2. Then version 2 teaches you something that creates a version 3. And eventually people look at version 4 and say, wow, that's a great idea. They didn't see the 3 disasters underneath it. I want to see them. Save them, because those versions tell the story of your learning. If every experiment you run produces exactly the answer you hope for, I'm going to becoming increasingly suspicious, because entrepreneurship involves rejection, confusion, silence, bad assumptions, people not clicking, people refusing to buy, and occasionally someone saying something that changes everything. Failure becomes valuable when you can answer, what did this teach me? Then what am I changing because of it? This is the learning loop. Eventually, your idea has to collide with reality. Someone besides you has to encounter it. This is the moment entrepreneurship becomes wonderfully uncomfortable. Someone clicks, someone tastes, someone attends, someone downloads, someone tries, someone ignores it, someone pays, someone refuses to pay. Someone looks at the thing you've spent 3 weeks observing over and says, I don't understand this. Beautiful. Now we have something useful. Because before that moment, your idea belongs to your imagination. After that moment, the world gets a vote. And I want you to cultivate a healthy relationship with that collision. Your job is not to convince every customer they're wrong. Your job is to observe. What confused them? What excited them? Why did they hesitate? What did they assume? What did they actually do? Entrepreneurs become much more capable when they stop treating feedback as judgment of themselves. The prototype failed. The message failed. The price failed. The channel failed. Okay, change it. You are not the prototype. Once something leaves your laptop and encounters another human being, entrepreneurship becomes real. At the end of the semester, please do not come in here and tell me, we worked really hard, I believe you, show me it. Bring me the evidence. Show me the prototype, the customer interview, the analytics, the message nobody responded to. Show me the first person who said yes. Show me the first person who said no. Show me versions 1 next to version 4. Show me the quote from a customer that caused you to change direction. If there's a first sale, show it. If there wasn't, show me what you learned from asking. The final is not really a presentation. It is a demonstration of movement. You started here, you believed this, you investigated, you discovered, something changed. You built something, reality responded, you adapted, and now you're here. The story is far more interesting to me than perfectly polishing a pitch describing a hypothetical future. I don't want entrepreneurial theater. I want fingerprints, evidence that you touched the world and the world touched the idea back. So what am I actually evaluating? Not whether you created the next Airbnb in 12 weeks. That would be absurd. I'm looking for something more fundamental. Curiosity. Did you investigate something deeply enough to discover what wasn't obvious? Initiative. Did you make things happen without waiting for me to tell you every step? Evidence. Can you distinguish what you believe from what you actually know? Courage. Did you attempt something where the outcome was uncertain? Execution. Did you move from idea into action and reflection? Can you explain how the experience changed your thinking? These are the entrepreneurial muscles. That's what this semester is really building. Venture is important, but the venture is also a vehicle. You are learning how you operate when there isn't a map, how you respond when someone rejects your idea, how you find information, how you create momentum, how you deal with ambiguity and uncertainty, how you make a decision when you have incomplete evidence. Those capabilities travel with you, whether you launch this venture, join a company, build another one, or completely change directions later. And this brings us back to day zero. Look at the path across the bottom. Notice, question, research, discover, define, build, test, learn, change, demo. And the most important word, continue. This semester will end. Your entrepreneurial journey doesn't have to. And when we arrive at the final day, I'm going to ask you a question that has very little to do with your grade. Who are you now that you were not on day zero? Maybe you're more comfortable talking to strangers. Maybe you've learned that rejection doesn't destroy you. Maybe you discovered a problem you wanted to spend years solving. Maybe you launched something. Maybe you liked and killed an idea that you once thought was brilliant. Maybe you discovered something about yourself that you weren't expecting. That's the journey. But none of this happens today. Today requires something much smaller. One move. So before you leave, I want you to think and decide. What interests me enough to explore? What do I not know? Who could I talk to? What is one thing that I can actually do in the next 7 days? Send the email, make the call, ask the question, walk into a business, draw the sketch, interview a stranger, put something into the world. You do not need to know where all of this ends. You only need enough courage to begin. Welcome to Maze. Welcome to entrepreneurship. Welcome to day zero. Now go bend the future. Take out your phone or piece of paper. You have 60 seconds. Write down 3 possibilities you could pursue this semester. Don't evaluate them yet, just write. Then circle the one that creates the strongest reaction in you. Curiosity, excitement, frustration, or even fear. Now write the name of one person you could talk to about it this week. Then give that actual first challenge. Before the next class, take one action that creates new information. That tiny behavioral ending is critical.